All right. Welcome back to Building CareCo. This is episode 9.
Ballpark, yeah? 9, 10?
Estimate. We'll round up. Episode 2017. Building CareCo is where I sit every Thursday night with my CTO and co-founder Shlomo Razov, and we drink a bottle of wine and talk about the week. So let's do it.
Sounds good.
This week, we have Or Haganuz Elima. Green label. Which makes you think it's made out of natural ingredients, which is good. See how we do. What is it? It's a mix of two cabs, Frank and Regular. Frank and Regular. Imagine if that was your name. Frank and Regular. That'd be a weird name, right? Be wild. Yo, so it's been a long week, right?
I think we should have a thing. The longer the week, the more intense the wine should be, or the more wine we should get. Let's say 2 bottles for a hard week, or we should upgrade to like whiskey or something.
Yeah, exactly. If I was going to say if that was the case, then we'd have to go whiskey this week. So
or a good bourbon, you know.
Yeah. Oh! Look at that color. Gorgeous. Jamie. Give me your official name now.
I always cut this bread out.
Really?
I walk in front of the bread. And...
I thought you for sure keep it in.
Oh, wow.
Shows you. Is it good?
One of the better ones. Definitely.
Oh, it smells like a brownie.
Yeah. That's funny. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's not a very...
wow, very different.
Thing. Instead of saying hints of nectar.
Smells like a brownie.
Brownie. Good. Mm. Good stuff.
Yeah, good wine. Last week we had bad wine. This week we have good wine. Okay, so it's been a long week. A lot of fires. Also a lot of successes. We brought on some really big clients this week. Our issues this week were not scale issues like they were last week. We have some internal things that were telephonic issues, which is really, really difficult. Because you're relying on other people who are relying on like the gods of telephone to like make this thing work.
Yeah, telephone is complex because it's a whole network. There's a lot of, when you're making a call, there's a lot of parts that are connecting different networks, analog to digital, digital to analog, and then you have to trace down the problem and reach out to the people that are associated with it. So yeah, it's very complex.
So. You want to hear a funny story? So like at the end of today, I was done. I mean, I literally spent all day on support, back and forth. And I have a meeting with an executive at a interesting company. And it was like pretty exploratory. And I was just like in one of those, I was just like done. So I get on with him and I'm like, oh, cool. What's your name? Nice. So what do you do at this company? So he goes, yeah, I brought a lot of my experience over from my time at Stripe. I said, cool, what'd you do at Stripe? He said, well, I did a lot of sales and I was also in charge of global expansion. And I said, cool, like Hitler. It threw him off so hard.
Did he laugh?
Yes, he's like, he choked on himself first. And he's like, I'm sorry.
He didn't see that coming.
Did not see it coming. Did not see that coming.
You also have to be like a bit courageous to say that. I would never say that. Even if I thought it was funny, I just can't say it. Like I go.
So funny. He's like, I've completely lost my train of thought. He was just thrown off completely. But I don't know. I couldn't resist. And this has been one of those weeks,
Nice.
Yeah. I had another one.
Global expansion. We can use one of those. Huh?
Global expansion. Yeah. Got to find yourself a good German. Yeah. Last night also, I took my kid to physical therapy, and it's in like a college. So you walk in, it's like and it's in this big sports arena. So you like walk in and there's like some lounge areas and then the place where he goes for physical therapy. And then that whole area is overlooking like a massive gym. And so there's like basketball and there's volleyball. And usually it's very quiet. Some of the school's practicing, maybe that's about it. Last night it was like popping. It was like, so I turned to one of the college kids that are there and I'm like, why is it so busy today? So she goes, because they're doing a game for autism awareness. So I was like, cool. And like 10 minutes later, I walk by and I'm like, so are all the players autistic or just like like and she's trying so hard not to laugh because she doesn't know if I'm serious or not. And my straight face, she's like, so it's not the players. Yeah, it's been one of those weeks. You know,
Nice.
yeah.
Sound like you can open up a YouTube channel and do one of these pranks. You know,
I'm telling you,
on the street.
if I wasn't an Orthodox Jewish guy and also didn't have like actual value to give to the world, I would definitely be a YouTuber.
YouTuber? Why? You can still be one. Why
not now. Like back when I was.
Why can you be one now? What's the conflict?
No, I mean like one of these like like prank type stuff. Like I like the social awkwardness type thing. I enjoy that. Like when I was a teenager, I used to do like experiments on myself. Like how far can I take? Can I take things? Like how far can I take something? And I've had like wild stories. Like I once ended up in like a locked mall in the middle of the night on like the 3rd floor because there was like a studio over there, and I showed up and there was these guys waiting outside for like the musicians were waiting for the studio people. I basically had them both convinced that I was with the other group, essentially.
Nice.
So next thing I know, I'm in the elevator riding up to the studio with these guys. We're rolling in the studio, and then like 10 minutes in, they both finally clicked. Me and I took like 2 friends. We were with neither of them, and then they were like, "Sir, you need to leave." Whatever. I used to do like a lot of like social experiments on myself to see like how far I could take things, and like what's the worst that could happen.
Yeah, that's social engineering.
Yeah, like what's the worst that could happen.
It's good for that's how hackers hack. You know, a big part of hacking today is social engineering.
What do you mean?
If you want to hack a system, if you want to breach a system, any hacking thing that happens, it usually involves social engineering. Like even phishing and smishing, or all these things that someone sends you a message. All that is a form of social engineering, where basically they're using, social concept on a social level. They're getting you to do something that you wouldn't do otherwise. So hacking is not always, even digital hacking usually it starts with social engineering. That means the way you penetrate into some level through social engineering, or at some stage you use social engineering to get from one step to the other. And that involves like convincing, like what you did. Think about if you're trying to get a security clearance of a high building, right. And then you do that trick, and then you find yourself in the server room, and then you hook in your laptop and you start taking data. So
it's basically, it's like, I love like the Catch Me If You Can guy. I don't know if you've ever seen that guy.
And there's questions if that story really happened or not.
Really? Well, I'm sure it was embellished, but like that kind of thing. But yeah, for sure. She's saying the best hackers are basically people that understand human nature very well and are also very technically.
Yeah, or they're a team of one person that does one well and one person does the other. Yeah, but it's definitely social engineering is like the differentiator. Like if you can social engineer,
most of them are pretty crappy at it. Like
it's also the creativity though. It's also the creativity of not just the, like you're saying, like the temperament and being able to act it out, but also the creativity of saying, I'll do this and I'll get that guy to think like that and that guy to think like that. And so, yeah.
Cool. So I had that wild idea about the headset. You want to talk about it?
Sure. Go for it.
I think it's interesting. So we're trying to think. So we built a phone system. Most people are switching to our phone system. It's a much better phone system when it works. When it's not dependent on like some internal carrier going down. When it's in our control, it's very good, which is 99% of the time.
Which is not good enough for a phone system.
No, it's not.
Should be like 99.9.
What do you think is going to happen here? Like, do you think they're going to like our telephony people? What do you think is going on their side?
Yes, I'm trying to figure out. Is it? What I need to understand after this is how do we avoid this in the future?
Right.
Because it's 2 days that we're having this, and how many users we have now? People using our system, 100, 150. Like the contacts we're starting, it's new. It's still pretty bad because some of these people are trying our system, and that's not a great first impression. But if we have 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, it's pretty bad. Like, how do we escalate it? So, yeah, we need to have that conversation, figure that one out. I don't understand the phone.
It seems strange that like they have these issues. It's a phone.
The question I have is, why is it only us? Like, it's a lot of our phone numbers in a lot of different areas to a lot of different areas.
Right.
So kind of you take out the uniqueness of it being a certain area code, a certain And it does seem that's on the carrier level. So why aren't any of their other clients experiencing this? Yeah, we'll ask them those questions. We'll try to get to the bottom of it. But I don't have any experience in the telephony space. And actually, when we started, one of the big things were that when I had a conversation with them was, listen, I'm not experienced in this space. It seems pretty straightforward, relatively. There's some complexities, obviously, a lot of complexities, but I think I can do this. But am I being naive and they said, no, I know.
It's not even you. You built all your pieces.
Right.
I mean, Anyway.
You're right. This problem is related. It's not in our hands.
And we're 100% sure about that, right?
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
Strange. Yeah. It's like so painful when like you don't know. You don't like it's not in your control.
Right.
But you still have to when it's basically your fault, it's your problem, but it's not your fault.
And in a way, one thing that I forgot about it until now, but I'll just say it, one thing that I like to, whenever we run to a hard problem, and it's really, really hard, and it seems like it's difficult and almost impossible to overcome. When I think of it from the perspective of, okay, that means anybody else that wants to do this are gonna have to go through the same barriers. So that's actually an advantage because it means you're tackling a serious problem that other people will try to avoid or will fail.
Right.
And if you persevere, you have an advantage because you kind of eliminated a huge part of the competition.
Yeah.
Because something that's very easy to do, it's very easy to replicate too.
Right. Like a scribe.
Like a scribe. Oh, those scribes. That's like the biggest joke. I think that's going to become the meme of the AI era. Like, today they talk about the 1990s with the .com. Anybody that had a website and just wrote that they have a business plan, they didn't even write what their business plan was. They got $1 million, which adjusted for inflation, it was probably $10, $20 million back in those days. But I think they're going to look back and they're like, people were like creating these AI scribes and they were acquired for $20 billion. What was it?
Yeah.
I don't get that. That doesn't make any sense. There's nothing complex in making an AI scribe.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe it was for the user base, for the install base. Maybe they got a big market share. It was less about substance. It was more about the externalities, either capturing the user
the one
base.
You're talking about 20 billion
or the brand
was not a scribe back then. You're referring to Nuance, which was bought by Microsoft for $20 billion. Nuance was not a scribe then. Actually, Nuance. So Microsoft had a scribe called DAX, which was a dictation tool essentially. So it was just a thing that doctors could speak into, and it's going to write their what they're saying. Nuance was an AI scribe. I'm trying to remember what Nuance was exactly. I think it was like because now everything is scribe. They came out with DAX Copilot, which mixes Nuance plus DAX together, and it's like a Copilot, which is basically the same thing as Nabla, and a Bridge and the others. But a Bridge is a good example because a Bridge, I think they just did another raise, put them, I think, at a $2 billion valuation. I think it's 2 something, maybe 2.3 or something like that. And it's like, you know who came out with something this week? This is a bit of a digression, but Hippocratic AI had an announcement this week. Like they made like a new model.
Yeah, urge to talk about Hippocratic AI.
No, it's like no. I think it's people that are making things making things look very shiny because they do raises around it.
They're in the shiny.
Looks very shiny, but it's
shiny
not.
space.
But it's not. Right, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like, why are you busy bragging about the fact that you like fine-tuned a new model? It's going to be so irrelevant. Like, it's already so irrelevant. Like, nothing. It doesn't matter. So anyway, so a Bridge is like. I respect them a lot. I respect what they've done. They definitely were able to capitalize in a really, really good way, and they got a ton of market share very quickly. They got it with Epic very, very deep, and they were able to capitalize on that. But like inherently. Nice. And that's why they're all, we already spoke about this a million times, but that's why they're all trying to scramble to figure out how do they become workflow tools. And it's really difficult to be a workflow tool when you're so broad,
Right. I guess what everybody saw was a huge value that was easy to get and easy to sell. So the downside was that it was easy to get. Anybody can make it. The big upside was that it was tremendous value and you can charge a lot for it. once there's a lot of competition, you probably can charge a lot for it. But the amount of value it brings to the user, it becomes a no-brainer. Oh, you're saving me so much time, I'll pay for it. So that was a huge, there are a few things that AI brings tremendous value, but that was one of them, right? The scribes, the summarizing of a conversation. So like they all saw that, and I guess it was more of like it was more of a sales game than anything else. It wasn't about quality. It was about sales. It was like you came to the West Coast and there's gold everywhere. And now the question is, who can sell it to the biggest company and make the most amount of money?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the dynamic there. It's all about the sale. And then who got in the end? It was Nuance. You said they got to Microsoft.
Yeah, but that was I think it was I'm not sure when they sold exactly, but I mean, that it wasn't just a scribe, because even a bridge, I'd say a bridge is even beating Nuance, I would say.
But there's nothing there. If you know a bit of prompting and you take,
right.
Even back then with GPT-4 or...
GPT-4 wasn't around.
Right, but GPT-4 was slow. So GPT 3.5 even, 3.5, that era, I think, anybody with some prompting skills could have gotten those results. So it's nothing. It's like a company that you can build in a few days and you're selling it for billions of dollars.
I want to do something a little different.
So on.
Yeah, let's take I'm curious if listeners will actually hear this and appreciate this. When we started talking, we were talking early 2023. The idea that I had for CareCo was February 13th of 2023. So we started talking somewhere around then. You were an engineer. Obviously, you were working at Vimeo.
Software developer.
No, engineer.
Engineer is a made-up term.
You told me engineer is the fancy term for software engineers. Exactly. I'm being respectful.
It's the pretentious term.
It's the pretentious term. Good.
Yeah, it's like we're not engineers. Like, what does that have to do with engineering? I'm sorry to all you guys.
Social engineering.
Social engineering.
It's like a doctor that has a doctorate and it's not actually a doctor.
Peter Thiel said that anything that has, I think, the word science in the field, in the name, is
spectacular.
Yeah,
so good. I think it's the best bottle we.
I think so too.
Maybe minus the Malian Reserve. This is probably the best.
I think it's a combination of how good the wine is and how bad the week leading up to drinking the wine was.
It was rough, man.
So I think Peter Thiel said that any field that has like the word science in it usually is not science. So like computer science, or there's a lot of other. So computer science is one of them.
I'm a scientist.
Not really science. I mean, the one, on certain levels it's science. But for most people doing the day-to-day, doing the work that I'm doing, what? Rocket science? No, that's real.
That's real. That's the realist science is rocket science.
Well, like physics is called physics, math is called math. Those are real sciences.
Right.
Computer science, there is some science to it. But 99% of what you do on a day-to-day.
I thought it's called computer science because the computer does the science for you. That's why it's called. So you've come, light years. You've gone from essentially, the whole world did. We all went from not knowing what AI was, except for the people that were doing like actual machine learning, to now you're literally building like a Gen AI based company and you're extremely proficient. So let's take a step back and that's my opinion. Let's give some listeners, like, I know a lot of people a couple episodes ago, what did I put out? I put out a clip about, what was it? It wasn't the mindset toggle. I put out some sort of video and I got a lot of feedback with a lot of questions from people. And it made me realize that a lot of people that listen to the podcast are not, even prompting every day or using generative AI every day. So let's take a step back and give like a framework in your words for, let's just take, I'm specifically going to make this very general. Like, let's just take prompting as a concept. Can you explain it?
Who's the audience?
The audience is someone that asks the question, what is prompting?
Yeah, but what are they familiar with? What's the persona?
It's a 27-year-old Norwegian dude.
And what does he do?
Well, he doesn't speak English, so that's a problem.
He's a bachelor's of science.
But he's a science of bachelor's.
Bachelor.
Somebody that wants to use AI, like Claude or ChatGPT, wants to be effective.
Right. No, what I'm saying, but you have to know who you're talking to say it in the right words that they will understand.
So it's a 27-year-old Norwegian guy that just learned English and is interested in starting to use prompting in his day-to-day life. And he is a college student who is majoring in rocket science.
Okay, so prompting in a very simple description is you are instructing the AI to give you the results that you want. Now, if the AI was a human being, you'd probably be able to say it, in your language, and depending on the quality of the human being and their understanding of where you are and where they are, they would try to bridge the gap and get to the bottom of what you're trying to do, and then they would solve that, respond to you, assuming they're experts in their field. But with AI, you don't have that luxury always, and you kind of have to understand also what the AI's capabilities are. So you have to know. So there are some techniques about how to prompt, how to say the phrase, understanding some weaknesses of the AI, like certain AIs are sensitive to certain types of things, certain formats. But the general idea is prompting is saying, if you want to get a certain result, if you want to say, here's my conversation with Mendel, you give it the full transcript, the whole conversation, you say, find 5 fascinating things that I can use as the title of my YouTube video to get me the most clicks. So you can do that. And the AI will give you 5 titles. But then you can start tweaking it because you realize it's not really the style that you want. So you start changing the language that you're using. And then with some AIs models, let's call them, you'll realize certain language works better. Some of them, different language works better. So that's all prompting. How do I say it? How do I structure my instructions to the AI on what I want? And that's it.
Yeah.
That simple?
Yeah, I it's been very interesting for me because the way that I explain this, maybe I don't have the exact words yet, but I think it makes sense, is the difference between prompting and searching, like the pre-AI and post-AI world, and it's literally had an impact on my brain in the way that not just I think about how to get information for myself, but the way that I now provide information to other people. It's very, very interesting what it's done to us. And so the way that I describe it is, in the olden days, basically pre-2022, November of 22.
Days of black and white.
Yeah, in the days of black and white, you were basically searching search engines. And in order to do that, and we never realized we were doing this because this was the reality, but what we were doing was, if I were to go to the internet and I want to search something, in my brain, I was thinking, how do I think the search engine thinks about this thing?
It was a step further.
It was much further.
Yeah.
And I would then think in my brain, what are the keywords that I think the search engine uses to find this thing? And I would try to mirror my brain to what I thought the search engine did, right?
Based on your experience.
Based on my experience. And what prompting did is it stripped out all of that noise, and it just allows you to get straight to the end line. What are you actually trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? I think one of the best examples of Gen AI, oddly enough, is from Spotify. When they put out, everybody spent a year trying to every big app tried to figure out how to incorporate Gen AI. And what Spotify did is they realized that when you're searching for music, right? So let me go back to the search engine thing for a second. You would search for words that you thought the search engine used, and then you were essentially looking in a digital file cabinet. So you would try to find the right room, you would open up the room, and then that was a website, and then you would go in that room and you would find a cabinet, and you would open up the cabinet, and then in that cabinet you'd find a file cabinet, you'd open up the file cabinet, and then in the file cabinet you would find a drawer, you would open up the drawer, and then you would flip through the different folders, and you would find the folder. You were basically doing that digitally. You were going from link to link to link to link to link to link to link. Yeah, the thing of the search, right? And so with music, it's kind of very similar. I'm looking for this artist, right? And then you find the artist. And then I'm looking for this album. And then I'm looking for this album. And then I'm looking for the song. I'm looking for the song. And what Spotify did is they realized that people are not actually looking for music. Sometimes people are looking I'm nostalgic. I want to listen to this specific song. Fine. But most times, what is music? Music is a
mood.
Feeling.
Yeah.
Exactly. People want to feel a certain way.
Okay.
So Spotify launched this thing that I want to feel X. And you're not searching Spotify.
How are you describing X?
I want
Give me an
to
example.
feel. Give me a playlist that will make me feel like I just won $1 million. I don't know. Give me a.
Is that how you think when you think about music? I don't think that way.
Sometimes. Maybe I
Wanna
want to
focus?
focus, or maybe I want to set a mood. You know, I'm going on a first date. Give me a playlist for that. Give me something that will feel like that. I want to, but it's more of a feeling that allows you to start. It's just you think very differently. How do I actually want to feel in this scenario?
Yeah, but music, the nuance of music is much more than human words can describe, from my perspective. So, like you're right. Ultimately, it's about a feeling, but when you associate the feeling with a certain song that you want at the moment, maybe I'm just not articulate enough. Am I disconnect from my emotions to my verbal expression is very distant, and maybe other people are better at that. But I think that it's more about the nuance of music is way more articulate and specific that no words can describe it. I mean, did it work for you? Let's take a step back.
I haven't tried it.
So you're touting something that you didn't even try.
I'm not touting the product. I'm touting the concept of how to think about something.
But it's all nice and theoretical. If the product doesn't work, then it's like.
Actually, that's not true. I've tried it a couple times. Like, Sunday morning, I'm making coffee, and I wanted to, I wanted to have like a jazzy cafe vibe or something like that.
Okay,
but that's more of a vibe.
That's a genre. That's a genre.
Right.
Click a genre.
But to me, it was very emblematic of the concept of basically taking your brain all the way to the end result. And maybe you're right, by the way.
It's a good thought experiment. That's for sure.
Like what are you actually trying to accomplish? And what's interesting is that is that what you're actually trying to accomplish is like an onion. There's endless layers to it. And it actually takes a tremendous amount of self. And this is maybe why I haven't tried the Spotify thing specifically, and maybe in general why this is quite complex. But it takes a tremendous amount of self-understanding and self-awareness to actually know what you actually want, Like if you're thinking, should I stay home or should I go to this party, right? Like you're not actually thinking, should I stay home or should I go to this party? You're actually thinking, if I stay home, am I going to feel this way? If I go to the party, am I going to feel this way? Then when you're at the party, should I go talk to that person or this person? Should I stay? Like to peel back the layers of your own onion and to figure out what you're actually trying to accomplish at the core center is quite a feat. It's quite and it takes a lot of self-awareness,
I wonder if Neuralink will be able to tap into that.
Haven't tried it. It's basically like Spotify. Haven't tried it.
No, but imagine Neuralink with Spotify. So Neuralink kind of sends the signals to Spotify and says, based on the person's mood right now, I think he wants that song. And you start playing it, and it reads the signals in your brain, and it says like, no, he's not responding well. Let's try this, try that. Imagine the quick feedback, and you're like you do like
my brain would break Neuralink. It was like boop, boop, boop,
you do like a binary search where you go one extreme and then you go to the other extreme and you go in the middle, and then there's a very efficient algorithm for like trying to find a point in a spectrum. It's called like the binary search. And yeah,
interesting. So, biggest headline this week, I would say, is this company Wizz.
That's the biggest headline?
I think so. I saw it just everywhere. Company Israeli startup.
There's so much going on that like there's so many big headlines, but yeah.
Right. Israeli startup got acquired. Cybersecurity, right? Cybersecurity startup got acquired by Google for $32 billion. I believe it's 32.
I mean, they're in the process.
But they announced the deal together. Right. They did the official tweet, so I'm pretty sure that seals the deal. Pretty sure.
Yeah, there's regulatory. It has to get approved. It's months, if not years. Really? Yeah.
That was just announcing the intent.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, sometimes European regulation can intervene. Sometimes U.S. You basically need the approval from a lot of, like for example, HP Enterprise. They announced something close to a year ago where they're going to acquire this company of networking, like a Cisco kind of much smaller one, and they got A few months later, it got the European approval, but it got stuck in the U.S. regulatory thing. It's like almost a year already, I think, since they started.
If you got European approval and you get stuck in the U.S.,
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's a shame.
What? The Wizz?
The Wizz deal. Expected by 2026 to
Makes
close.
sense.
Did you look at the deal at all? Do you have any thoughts on the space? Nada.
I have thoughts on the space. I didn't look at the deal. I remember when it came up like a half a year ago or a year ago. I don't know if it was the same price. Maybe it was a different price. But it was when AI was booming. I think it was end of 2023 or maybe probably that when GPT-3 came out. Yeah, I think it's everybody knows that it's a very hot space and it's just going to become increasingly more important because the threat of hacking and penetration from outside of systems into systems is increased with AI because now someone that's trying to penetrate a system, they have much more capabilities. So yeah, so it's very obvious. Anybody thinks about it that cybersecurity is going to become an incredibly important space with a lot of value and a lot of money involved. Sure.
So you think that the interest in this company / space is a natural extension of the AI generation?
Yeah, sure. Because if I was trying to hack a system and now I can use AI,
right,
and I could spend $1,000 and spin up hundreds of AIs to try different ideas and come back. It's a force multiplier. So now the other side of things, the other end also needs to be a force multiplier. And the tricky thing about cybersecurity is always you have to kind of be a step ahead because the people that are attacking are always being creative and finding new ideas. So
interesting.
It's all about AI. I think the value of cybersecurity is becoming way more critical because of AI, and I think that's the only reason. I think otherwise it wouldn't be a $30 billion valuation for them.
It's funny because like the immediate things that people were talking about when Gen AI was coming out, like, oh, I'm going to be able to clone my son's voice and call my grandmother and make it whatever. I don't think a lot of that has come to fruition. Like,
by the way, that's another big security problem. That is cybersecurity problem.
Yeah, but I don't think a lot of that has like...
Because if you get a call, a lot of these, I never got them, but sometimes you'll get a call. I don't know what they're called, but you'll get a call and no one's going to talk to you. You're going to be like, hello, hello. And they're going to record your voice. And then what we're going to do is they're going to call you back 2 weeks later. They're going to find out that you have a daughter or something or a son. They're going to call back. Oh, no. So if they get your voice, they're going to call your wife and they're going to say, hey, honey, I forgot my credit card. Can you just give me quickly the number and the PIN? And, you create like this sense of urgency so they're not thinking. And it sounds like they can fake your number. They can spoof your number, right? So it's your phone number. So it seems...
Your voice.
So your wife sees your number coming up.
Simple. We're in the space now. It's not so simple to just spoof someone else's number. I mean, use doximity and whatever, but like...
Right. There's different grades of what's it called? Attestation.
Like it'll get shut down.
There's different levels of attestation, and most mobile carriers they require the highest level of attestation to show, but not all of them. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with the space, but people can spoof. So they'll call you. It's gonna sound like you. It's gonna be like, oh, just give me quickly a number. You give them the number, boom. Or even to a bank. I mean, a credit card it takes a few days to settle, so they can still do something. But with a bank, and then boom, you clear out the money and it's all gone. So I think with AI, these things are going to proliferate, and a lot of. I mean, it's a good example because this is something we can relate to. But think about in the AI, in the computer space, in businesses, how they can use, and that's what social engineering comes in from. It's a hack, and you're using social engineering because you're kind of finding like the person's vulnerabilities, and you're learning how to tap into that, and that's a major threat for the whole space. So.
I think a lot in the doom, like there was so much doomsaying in 2022, so much. And could it still happen? Yeah, I suppose, but like it's not happening.
But then I would argue, I hear what you're saying, but I think that's short-sighted. I think.
But they expected it to be like, oh, everyone's going to think this is going to take years. It's not going to take years. It's going to take 6 months because this thing learns exponentially and it's already connected. I remember when they connected ChatGPT to the internet. Do you remember that? It was a firestorm. It was like 3.5. I don't know which GPT, and they unplugged it after a while. They only unplugged it because it was giving crappy results. But everyone was like, yeah, because they. And the second, are you kidding me? You just connected it to the internet. Now it's going to learn everything. It's going to know how to control the world.
I think people that fully understand AI, they knew that there was the threat wasn't then. The threat is in the future. It still is in the future.
Yeah, a lot of people made this guy Mo Gadawat. And he was like one of the first, he was like one of the big AI people at the beginning. And like, I still see him, his YouTube channel has kind of gone down. I think he's not so hot anymore, but like, he's still on the same broken record that he was like 3 years ago. Also, that guy Harari, what's his name? Naval Harari?
Yuval Harari.
Yuval, yeah. Yuval something Harari, whatever. Also, he was all about it, whatever, and he was getting paid to go all over the world and speak and give doomsaying.
No, I think you're confusing the name.
No.
Doomsaying of AI, there was a guy...
Yuval Noah Harari.
There's another Israeli name. It was called... I forgot the name. Also, okay, I mean, maybe they're both true. But there was another guy that he was going around and talking about it nonstop.
It's like, I don't know. Hasn't really happened so
Eliezer... Yutkowski, something like that.
That's a very Jewish name. It's almost too Jewish.
Something like that. I don't remember the name. Is Jamie searching it?
Yutkowski. Yeah. I'm just saying. Like,
I think the threat is still there. I think this.
I know Israel listens to these. Like even Israel, I'd love to hear. Like I haven't spoken to him in a bit on like the updated. Like Israel is very, very concerned around what's his name?
Eliezer Yutkowski.
Wow, you're right. Eliezer Yutkowski. Damn.
And he's a doomsday, right, for AI?
There's extreme concerns about AI potentially wiping out.
Extreme.
Yeah, but the guy who came out strongly against it was one of the biggest scientists in AI.
Even Elon's calmed down about it. Elon was
he's distracted with other things.
Right, he's got a lot going on.
And he lost his war on that. Like, what is he? The genie's out of the box. What are you going to do now? But Jeffrey Hinton, yeah, Jeffrey Hinton is huge. Like he was, I think he even left like one of his positions, maybe at Google. Was he in Google? I think he left Google or one of these big places, and he says he left his position just so he can speak out against the threat. And I hope that there's no threat, but I still think the real concern is not where we are right now. Right now, AI is more of a clever autocomplete tool. It's not.
That was great. Yeah, go ahead.
But that's where it is. Like in terms of intelligence, it doesn't understand anything. It's just a regurgitation. It basically goes through a lot of text. It learns patterns. And then you give it a prompt, you're asking it a question. It doesn't understand you asking it a question.
And it's just getting better and better at basically taking more and more text, video, audio, whatever, different into account. But at the end of the day, I think you just boiled it down really, really well. It's a very, very good autocomplete tool.
Right. I mean,
maybe that autocomplete takes into account video and audio and text and whatever, fine, no problem. But it's not its own,
but fundamentally what it does is it learns the patterns. It goes through billions of, or trillions of words and paragraphs and sentences. And it learns, and it basically understands predictably what's based on your question, based on the sequence of words, what's the most probabilistic next best sequence of words to complete it. That's all that it's doing. Because it converts. What's tokenization? Why they call it tokens? Tokenization is where it takes words and converts it into numbers. It doesn't care about your words. It's like, okay, no problem. Yeah, A, B, C, no problem. It converts it into 1, 2, 3. It doesn't really care about your word. It just needs a sequence that it can work with more efficiently. And then it takes that and converts it back into words. But it doesn't care about the words. It sees the patterns and it gives you back the patterns. So it doesn't have a fundamental understanding. So it's very powerful AI. We know how powerful it is, but it has fundamental, people see like the way it's progressing. They think it's already it understands on a human level, but it doesn't. Its actual understanding is probably I mean, based on what certain people claim, is like a 2-year-old child, or maybe even less than that. It just remembers a lot, so it compensates for its lack of understanding.
Right.
So I think the
Right.
real
Some
threat is
misnomer.
still ahead of us. Once the more intelligence and there's bigger breakthroughs in AI, I think the threat is definitely there. I mean, for me, it's pretty concerning, but I don't lose sleep
Let's go
over it.
let's go back to engineering. Let's
Yeah.
touch on engineering for programming for a second. In the past, you've talked about how like there's a lot of hype. I mean, Chamath, we talked about in very like early episodes how like Chamath is like all in on the on the Olapod, talking about how like these amazing co-pilots, whatever, they weren't there. They're progressing pretty quickly. I saw a thing from Claude saying that like by the year 2030 or something, basically all code is going to be written by AI and essentially reviewed by humans. Are you still keeping up to date with like Cursor and Claude and where these things are? Have you used it recently? And what's your updated opinion, if any?
Yeah. So Cursor is nothing. Cursor is just a window into Claude or into the underlying LLM that you're doing, that's powering it. Cursor has no intelligence. It has no value. I mean, the value is it's creating a good user experience. That's really what it is, and that's why I think Cursor, in a year or two, we're not going to remember the name Cursor, because there's going to be 5 others that are going to do just as good or not even better, because
the underlying model will get better.
The underlying power of Cursor is the model that it's using,
which is Claude.
Which is typically Claude, now 3.5, 3.7. They're the best at coding. So Cursor is like, it's like taking, a huge project and wrapping, it's like white labeling a product. It's that's really what it is. So, I mean, kudos to Cursor. I'm not trying to downplay it, but ultimately it's not like people thinking that it's going to be the next big thing or the valuation that's been given right now. I think that's all hype, and they have no fundamental advantage over anything else, because the true value, the heavy lifting, is by the LLM and the AI under it. So back to AI writing all the code. I don't believe that. I think it's hyperbole. And I think this is actually a fear that I had, or a thought that I had way back. I don't know if I said it on the pod or not, but there's going to be this point in time where there's going to be a proliferation of softwares and, SaaS products and beautiful websites that offer you, amazing stuff at great prices, because there's going to be these kids writing with Cursor and all this stuff. And then this is going to be like these moments of truth where suddenly the system doesn't work and it's built wrongly, and the people that built it don't understand how it's built, and they don't know how to debug it. They don't know how to fix it. So it's very nice to be able to build an app with Cursor, but if you're building it and you don't understand, you didn't architect it, you don't understand how it's built and why it's using one thing versus the other, why it's using this database versus that database, where are the weak points, where are the stress points, and if you don't have that understanding, you cannot maintain a system like that. So it's very easy to make a product that works for one person, but to scale it and to be reliable, I think there's going to be...
What is inherently different about writing code and then debugging? Like, why aren't they just 2 different talents for 2 different AIs? Like, why doesn't it make sense that one AI will get really good at writing code, another AI will get really good at debugging, a third AI will get really good at scaling? Like, what's inherently unique about debugging and understanding and comprehending the whole architecture and the whole system?
It's a very good question. I need to think about that a bit. But fundamentally, when AI writes a big app, I don't think it's strategic about how it's building it. It doesn't say, okay, I understand the use case, and therefore I'm going to architect it in a very specific way. You can probably do that if you're intentional about it, and you say, let me separate the design and the build phase, and then go with AI, do a thought experiment and saying, how should I design the system? Let's think from a system design perspective. Here's what I want. You ask me the questions, I'll give you the answers. And the AI can say, how many people are you planning on catering for? What kind of use case is it? What's the level of uptime that's expected? What's the amount of support people that you have? Kind of, it could go through a whole thing and then maybe give you a nice idea of how to design it, and then you can go through that. So if you're very thoughtful about it, there may be a path to do it with AI, and that's actually an idea probably for a software tool. But generally, AI does not go that way. You tell it what you want, and
it's short-sighted. It's like it's listening to what you're telling it.
Exactly. It doesn't consider.
And it loses track very quickly when it tries to do a whole.
It doesn't consider the broader picture in the long term, because especially if you're not mentioning it in your prompt, and also it's not absolute. It's not 100% accurate. It becomes accurate based on your feedback, and your feedback is based on what you see at the moment. You don't know what you don't know if you don't know what to look out for it. So if you don't know that it needs to be robust and maintainable, and you don't know how to validate that through your testing or through your analysis, so you can see, okay, the button I'm clicking, it's not working. You can tell the AI, and you can give it the error code, and it's like, oh, okay, sure, yeah, we have to change this and that. But you can't. But in order to tell it how to design our system properly, you would have to say, oh, I see this is using this, how will it handle that situation? Like, you have to have that level of understanding to be able to do that level of analysis and feedback. I don't know if that was a good enough answer, but food for thought for sure.
Where in our processes on a programming level are we leveraging AI?
Anything that's super repetitive, like you did something and now you need to do it for another 50 things. So you still AI, it just does that. Tests. There's concept of writing tests in your code. So you have a test that whenever you ship out new code, you run those. The test is another set of code that runs against the code and sees that it works the way it's expected. So that's another thing that it's very good at. Autocomplete, when you're in a file and you have a certain pattern of code that you're using and you're starting to write something, it could kind of suggest how to write that thing. That's also pretty powerful. Yeah, I mean, it's probably overall probably a 30% efficiency gain in development. But the real hard stuff, it's not there. It's just not there. It's not there.
Meaning, you're not saying that on presumption. You've tried it. And it's not there.
I've tried it. It's just not there. It's a waste of time. So, I mean, I had a fear when AI came out. Was like, oh my God, in 5 years, I'm going to be useless. And until that point, software development, being good at it was a tremendous asset. It was a gift. It was like, you can have a good job, you can do well, robust, the demand, like for every 5 people, for every 1 developer that was on the market, there was demand for 5. So it was an incredible period of feeling like you're settled. And then suddenly this AI comes out, and the best thing that it's at was writing code. And then you're like, oh my God, what just happened? So that was one of my biggest concerns. And I still think it's a valid concern. I mean, it's not a concern for society. For society, it's a good thing. But for myself, it was a concern. I still think it's a concern. But when I get into the hard stuff and I'm like, the AI is just not there, I'm like, okay, we still got some time to go.
But it is a concern for junior engineers, which means that it's a concern for how do you become a senior engineer? We talked about this already, but how do you become a senior engineer if you don't break your teeth on junior stuff?
Right.
How do you do that?
Yeah, I'm curious if that's going to be an issue. Because right now, a lot of people are skipping on junior engineers. They're saying, I can use AI for the junior engineer type work. Why should I hire a junior engineer? Right. That's why for juniors, it's very hard to find a job right now. For everybody, it's hard, but the more junior, the less experience you have, the harder it becomes. And then what gives them that experience if no one wants to hire them? And if most of the stuff that they're writing, the AI is doing it for them. If I want to write something and the AI does the whole thing for me, it's like, okay, good. Why am I going to go and look at the code now and try to understand it?
The only answer I could think of is that basically junior engineer is going to mean something else. It's going to mean basically leveraging all these AI tools and learning and breaking your teeth and making mistakes on, conducting the various different AIs, and then, getting shat on by your senior by saying, hey, you and all your little AI tools, you didn't do well on this kind of thing. You have to do it again, or you have to this, you have to that. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Just like it's more tools.
There's a take that I've seen that people are saying junior engineers will be much more AI first. That means they'll be much less hesitant. There's a big hesitancy for experienced engineers to use AI because they try something and they feel like, it doesn't know what it's talking about. They kind of like write it off and they don't have a reason to try it again. They'll try it again a few months later. They'll hear about this new model that came out. They'll try it once, twice. They're like, and they'll write it off. So they don't have a reason to want to try it again. They don't have enough stake in the game. And I think it's a problem because if they would have stake in the game, if it would be their own business, they would say, let me see again if I can try it. Because one of the things with AI is that if you are optimistic and you do give it a few different tries, then you could find that spot. You could understand that use case where it's extremely, efficient and valuable. So if you just write it off, you're cutting it out from all opportunities. So there is that bias of people that are experienced to say they're coming in very skeptical and saying, okay, let's see what this thing can do. And then the first sign of that it's not perfect, you just write it off. But with juniors, they're using it first. They're not even questioning it because it probably knows more than them. So they're approaching with a mindset where they're AI first. They're much more happy to use it, and they're learning, and their habits are built around it. So they're much more proficient around it. So the argument is that junior engineers will be much more proficient because they're using AI and they're much better at using it. So they'll be even faster. But it's a good point. But I still think when you run into those hard problems, you run into a wall. The AI is not going to get you through that wall. So
right.
that's where you get stuck with that theory.
Fascinating. Here's to episode 9.
That's it. I feel like we talked about too many boring stuff.
Hey, let's see if it resonates.